The $47 billion agricultural supply industry depends on you never learning what I am about to show you. Every year, the average American farming family spends $3,200 on commercial inputs, fertilizers, and equipment they repurchase season after season without a second thought. But 370,000 Amish farmers across 31 states have practiced these same 25 methods for over 200 years and solved every one of those costs before the first invoice ever arrived. They have never written a single check to a commercial ag supplier, not one. Number 25, rotational grazing. You buy hay all winter and watch one pasture get chewed to dirt by August, and that is exactly the trap the Amish in Holmes County, Ohio refuse to fall into. They split a field into small paddocks and move the herd every day, so grass grazed on Monday gets 3 weeks to regrow before the cows taste it again. Alan Savory spent decades proving this with data, but Ohio dairy families were doing it in the 1950s. A single acre managed this way carries roughly twice the animals of one grazed continuously. That doubling only holds if the soil underneath stays alive, which is where the next method earns its keep. Number 24, composted manure. You pay for a bag of synthetic nitrogen that burns off in one season, while the Amish in Lancaster County turn barn waste into fertilizer that feeds soil for years. They stack manure with straw and let it heat to around 140 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks, killing weed seeds and locking nutrients into a crumbly black material. The Rodale Institute in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, measured compost-fed plots holding their yield through drought while chemical plots dropped. One dairy cow produces enough manure annually to fertilize about 2 acres for free. Free fertilizer is worthless, though, if your seed costs return every spring. Number 23, seed saving. You buy hybrid corn whose seed grows into something useless, so you pay the dealer again next year by design, but families in Daviess County, Indiana broke that loop generations ago. They replant the same open-pollinated field corn every season, drying the best ears in the rafters and shelling them by hand each winter. Seed Savers Exchange in Decorah, Iowa, has cataloged thousands of these heirloom lines since 1975. A single saved ear yields enough kernels to plant 100 feet of row at a cost of zero. Saved seed still needs ground that holds water, and that is the next problem solved. Number 22. Cover cropping. You leave a field bare over winter and watch it bake in summer and wash away in spring, while growers in Geauga County, Ohio, keep theirs blanketed the whole time. They drill in clover and rye after harvest, and the roots pull nitrogen out of thin air and pump it into the dirt for the next crop. The USDA put numbers on this in the 2000s, finding cover-cropped fields cut erosion by more than half. Clover alone can fix around 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre, replacing a fertilizer bill outright. Holding the soil is one thing, but feeding several crops from one field is another trick entirely. Number 21, companion planting. You plant corn alone, and it strips the soil while bugs feast on the leaves. But Amish gardeners across Pennsylvania pack 3 crops into the same hill instead. They grow the 3 sisters, where corn gives beans a pole to climb, beans feed the soil nitrogen, and squash leaves shade out weeds below. The Iroquois were running this system centuries before any European wrote it down. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin clocked these polycultures producing up to 20% more food per acre than the same crops grown separately. More food per acre means nothing if pests strip it first, which the next method handles without a spray can. Number 20, beneficial insect habitat. You douse a field in insecticide and kill the ladybugs along with the aphids, so the pests roar back with nothing to stop them, while farmers in Elkhart County, Indiana, do the reverse on purpose. They leave wildflower strips and hedgerows along their fields to shelter the predator bugs that hunt crop pests for free all season. Entomologist Mary Gardner at Ohio State documented these refugees cutting aphid populations dramatically without a drop of chemical. One ladybug eats around 50 aphids a day. An army of them works while you sleep, but only if your crops are not all identical targets sitting in one block. Number 19, crop rotation. You grow corn in the same dirt year after year, and the bugs that love corn move in permanently while the soil goes broke. Yet Amish farms in Mifflin County, Pennsylvania never gave a pest that second season. They move crops around the farm so no disease ever gets a repeat in the same spot. Charles Townshend pushed this method in England back in the 1730s, and these families never stopped using it. Rotating legumes into the cycle can lift the following grain yield by 10 to 15% with no added input. Healthy rotated ground still has to drink, and the next method keeps water where roots can reach it. Number 18, contour plowing. You plow straight up and down a slope, and the first hard rain carves your topsoil into gullies, while hill farmers in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, turned every furrow into a small dam instead. They follow the curve of the hill so each row catches water rather than channeling it away. Hugh Hammond Bennett built the entire Soil Conservation Service around this idea after the Dust Bowl in 1935, yet these farmers had plowed the contours by instinct for generations. Fields shaped this way hold back as much as 50% more rainfall than straight rows on the same grade. Catching the water matters less when half of it evaporates off bare dirt, which is the gap the next method closes. Number 17, mulching. You leave exposed soil under a July sun, and it dries to powder by noon, demanding constant watering. But market gardeners in Lancaster County keep theirs damp under a blanket. They pile straw and leaves around their vegetables so the ground stays cool while weeds get smothered in the dark. Ruth Stout wrote about her permanent hay mulch in Connecticut through the 1950s and 60s and barely watered again. A few inches of mulch cuts soil moisture loss by roughly 70%. Less watering frees up labor, but the real labor savings came from never tilling at all. Number 16, reduced tillage. You plow deep every spring because that is what everyone says to do, except every pass burns fuel and shreds the fungal threads that hold soil together, which some Amish growers in Lancaster County figured out and stopped. They plant straight into last year's residue with minimal disturbance and let earthworms do the loosening. The Rodale Institute's long-running trial in Pennsylvania found no-till organic plots using 75% less energy than plowed conventional ones. Undisturbed soil can hold tens of thousands more earthworms per acre, and those worms aerate the ground for free. Worms build structure underground, but the visible structure of the farm came from a building method that cost almost nothing. Number 15, timber frame barns. You lean a modern pole barn on steel fasteners and treated lumber bought by the truckload, while Amish builders in Holmes County raise barns that need neither. They join timber frames with wooden pegs and mortise and tenon joints cut from trees felled on the same farm. Some Pennsylvania bank barns standing today were raised in the early 1800s and have never needed a structural nail. A well-cut joint can carry loads for over 200 years with zero hardware replaced. A barn that outlives its builder protects animals that still need water hauled to them, which the next method delivered without a pump bill. Number 14, gravity-fed spring water. You run an electric pump to the barn, and the power bill never stops. But families on hill farms in Mifflin County, Pennsylvania, let gravity carry their water for nothing. They tap a spring uphill and pipe it down to the troughs below. No motor and no monthly cost, just elevation doing the work. A spring flowing at 5 gallons a minute delivers over 7,000 gallons a day on its own. That water reaches the trough at the same temperature it left the ground, but keeping milk and food cold without a refrigerator took a different stroke of sense. Number 13, spring houses. You run an electric cooler on a meter that spins day and night, while Amish families cool their milk on water that was already flowing anyway. They build a small stone structure over a spring so the constant 50-degree water keeps milk, butter, and produce cold through the hottest week of summer. Settlers across southeastern Pennsylvania built these in the 1700s, and many still stand. Spring water holding steady near 50 degrees stops milk from souring for days without a single watt. Cold storage solved one preservation problem, but the harvest still had to survive months without going to rot. Number 12, root cellaring. You believe vegetables need refrigeration and plastic the moment they leave the ground, but Amish households in Wayne County, Ohio, store theirs in a hole in the earth. They dig root cellars where the surrounding soil holds a steady, cool temperature and high humidity right through winter, keeping potatoes, carrots, and apples firm. Mike and Nancy Booble documented dozens of these designs in their 1979 book from Vermont. A properly built cellar keeps potatoes eating fresh for up to 8 months at no running cost. Stored roots feed the family, but grain needed protecting from the inside out, which the next method managed in the field itself. Number 11. Shocking in field curing. You burn fuel running a combine and a propane dryer to pull moisture out of grain fast, while Amish farmers in Lancaster County let sun and wind do it for free. They cut wheat and corn and stand the bundles upright in shocks, drying the grain in the field over a week or two. This was how every American farm worked before the 1930s. Field-cured grain can drop from 30% moisture to a storable 13% without a single gallon of propane. Dry grain keeps, but only if it stays dry in storage, which the next structure guaranteed. Number 10. Ventilated granaries. You seal grain in a damp bin and it molds, sprouts, or draws rats within weeks. But builders in Geauga County, Ohio, raise granaries that breathe instead. They lift the floor on stone or metal staddle stones to block rodents, while slatted walls let air move through the kernels. English tithe barns used this exact trick centuries ago. Grain stored at 13% moisture with good airflow keeps for 2 to 3 years without spoiling. Stored grain feeds livestock through winter, but those animals also needed bedding and the farm needed fertility, and one residue handled both. Number 9. Straw and bedding cycling. You haul straw off as waste and then buy fertilizer to replace what you threw away, while Amish dairies in Holmes County waste none of it. They spread straw as bedding, let it soak up manure all winter, then carry the soiled pack out to compost and return it to the fields. Nothing leaves the farm and nothing gets purchased to replace it. One winter's bedding pack from a small herd can fertilize several acres for the next season at zero outside cost. Closing that loop on the ground depended on having the animal power to spread it, raised the next way. Number 8. Draft horse breeding. You watch a tractor depreciate the day you buy it, knowing it can never make another tractor, but Amish teamsters in Lancaster County breed power that replaces itself. They raise their own Belgians and Percherons, so every working mare produces the next generation for the price of feed. The breed registries trace these bloodlines back over a century. A single draft horse can work the land for 15 to 20 years and leave behind foals worth thousands. Horses pull the plow and breed the next team, but feeding them through winter without buying hay took the haymaking method nearly everyone abandoned. Number 7. Loose hay storage. You buy a baler, twine by the spool, and fuel to run it, while families in Mifflin County store their winter feed with none of that. They cut, dry, and fork loose hay straight into the barn mow, packing it tight enough to keep all winter without a single knot of twine. This was the standard everywhere until balers spread in the 1940s. A well-packed mow stores several tons of feed with nothing bought but the pitchfork handle. Stored feed carries the animals, and those same animals turn their waste into the methane that lit the next innovation. Number 6. Methane Digesters. You wait for a truck to refill your propane tank and hand over an invoice every time, while some Amish farms in Lancaster County refill their own fuel from a manure pile. They run waste through a sealed digester where bacteria break it down and release methane, captured and burned for heat, with the leftover slurry still working as fertilizer. The Chinese built household digesters like this by the millions through the 1970s. The manure from a modest dairy herd can generate enough gas to offset hundreds of dollars in fuel a year. Captured gas powers the farm, but daily light still came from harnessing pressure instead of a power line. Number 5. Compressed air and hydraulic power. You pay the grid a bill every month for power you will never own, while Amish shops in Holmes County turn that rent into a one-time build. They pressurize air and hydraulic lines from a single engine and run drills, saws, and milkers off it, sidestepping the electric meter entirely. They have refined this since the mid-1900s to stay within their own rules while still working efficiently. One pressurized system can drive a whole workshop of tools without a kilowatt drawn from any utility. Powering tools is one thing, but moving the family and the goods to town ran on the simplest engine of all. Number 4. Horse and buggy transport. You feed a car gas, insurance, registration, and a payment book that never closes, while Amish families across all 31 settlement states travel on a horse they already feed. They ride in locally built buggies that last decades and burn nothing but the oats grown on the farm. Buggy shops in Lancaster County still hand-build these the way they did a century ago. A well-maintained buggy can serve a family for 30 years or more on near zero fuel cost. Local travel stays cheap, but trading goods between farms without cash took an economy most people forgot existed. Number 3, barter and work frolics. You hire a crew and rent equipment, turning every big job into a cash transaction, while an Amish family in Wayne County turns it into a favor instead. When they need a barn raised or a field harvested, neighbors arrive by the dozens and the work gets done in a day, repaid later when those neighbors need the same. A barn that would cost a contractor tens of thousands goes up for the price of the lumber and a shared meal. Labor circulates without money changing hands, and that same web of trust replaced the one bill nobody escapes: insurance. Number 2, mutual aid funds. You pay a commercial insurance premium every month for a payout that may never come, while Amish settlements charge nothing until disaster actually strikes. They pool money through mutual aid, so when a barn burns or a hospital bill lands, the group covers it directly with no company taking a cut. The Amish Aid Society in Lancaster County has operated this way since the 1800s. Families pay only what is needed when it is needed, often a fraction of what a commercial premium would total over a lifetime. Sharing the risk protects the family, but the deepest savings came from teaching the next generation to need none of this for sale. Number 1, apprenticeship and skill transfer. You send a kid to buy an education on credit and a lifetime of hiring specialists for every repair, while the Amish teach all of it for free and never stop. Children in every settlement learn farming, carpentry, harness making, and blacksmithing by working beside parents and grandparents, so the knowledge to build, grow, and fix everything stays inside the family. This hands-on schooling has run unbroken for over 200 years. A child raised this way can run an entire farm without ever paying for a single skilled service. That is the method that makes the other 24 possible, and it points straight back to where we started. Look again at that $3,200 the average farming family hands over every year, because not one of these 25 methods is really a separate trick. They are a single closed system, where the manure feeds the soil feeds the seed feeds the animals make the power and the next generation of animals, and the people pass the whole loop down, so it never has to be bought back. The Amish did not beat the agricultural supply industry by finding 25 clever savings. They beat it by building a farm that does not leak money in the first place. You will not rebuild that in one season, and you do not need to. Pick the one method whose bill annoys you most this year, the fertilizer or the seed or the feed, and close that single loop first. Master one, and the other 24 stop looking impossible.